So the one thing we've been hearing from Donald Trump ever since this trial started in New York is how that he should be out there on the campaign trail. He's being silenced. He's being mistreated. He's stuck in this courtroom freezing to death. He should be out on the trail talking about his vision for America. So you would think that when he finally does get out there and he's rallying, that he would want to talk about some new ideas, maybe some new directions for the country. But no, instead, he praised Hannibal Lecter. Take a look at this.
Silence of the Lambs. Has anyone ever seen a Silence of the Lambs? The late, great Hannibal Lecter is a wonderful man. He oftentimes would have a friend for dinner. Remember the last scene? Excuse me, I'm about to have a friend for dinner as this poor doctor walked by. I'm about to have a friend for dinner, but Hannibal Lecter, congratulations, the late, great Hannibal Lecter. We have people that are being released into our country that we don't want in our country.
Now, I know that's truly weird and disturbing, but what point was he trying to get to exactly? That's been my question with Donald Trump actually ever since he came down the escalator. People will say, well, you're taking these clips and you're taking them out of context. But I listened to the whole thing. I listened to it all in context, and it's just a bunch of incoherent gibberish, and he's got an audience of people sitting back and cheering him on. And it's like the lower he goes, the more they cheer. There's no bottom for them. There's no breaking point. There's nothing he can do. There's no line he can cross that will be too far for them, because now they're caught up in the story and they love owning the libs. So no matter what we say about him, they're going to take that and they're going to turn it into merchandise and they're going to run on it. And when it was reported that Donald Trump, wears diapers and was farting in court, you would think that he would come out real hard against that and would speak out against it. You would think his followers would be really offended by that and that they would come out swinging. But what did they do? They started wearing diapers to these rallies, and they started coming up with flags and ways to sell that. Take a look at this clip from Ben Meiselas, and then we're going to talk more about it.
Images show real people holding signs that say, "Real men wear diapers." And the claim that's being made was Donald Trump's supporters are wearing diapers at rallies in the spring of 2024 and holding signs that say, "Real men wear diapers." This is what the Trump supporters were wearing. And we discussed it before. And so for those saying, oh, why are you saying, don't make these things up? We're not. And I think it is important, again, as a data point, to talk about that this is just what they're doing at events, that they're showing up at events. And, like one of the things that they were also doing at events before this is they had these pee cones. I think they're called like pee cone. They would pee into these cones at the event, which I understand. Like, if you got to go, you got to go. But they would sell the pee cones. Am I saying, or pee funnels? They would sell the pee funnels next to hot coffee, and pee funnels are being sold at these events. And now at these Trump events, they're actually wearing diapers. And they're saying real men wear diapers. And that's like a thing that's happening at MAGA events. So you've got the pee funnels and you've got a thing that says real men wear diapers. And look, I truly am trying to approach this with a level of sensitivity. I'm not trying to, I'm not trying to mock it. I'm simply saying that this is happening at these events, and I think we need to reflect on the status of our politics in the United States of America, where you are dealing with pee funnels and real men wear diapers and real women wear diapers as a thing that's happening for a political candidate, the leader of the Republican Party, whose lawyer is complaining about him being called von Schitzenpants. Like, I'm not sure I want that. Maybe not the nuclear codes to that guy. Maybe.
Now, comedians and late night talk shows, they can have a field day with this kind of thing. But folks, can we just stop for a minute and reflect on the fact that this is where we're at in American politics? That this type of behavior has become acceptable? And we have a guy out there who is the front runner of the Republican Party who is appealing to those kind of people, and he's egging those people on. And he's okay with that being his base. It's one thing to have this crazy cult-like base. It's another thing to be the guy that wants to entertain it and wants to be the guy to exploit it. There's no way that a guy who would sit and exploit that type of behavior, there's no way that that guy has the best interests of the country at his heart. There's no way. Nor does he have those people's best interests. He sees them for what they are. He sees how easily they are to be used and manipulated. And so, yeah, he's going to keep playing to that crowd because he knows, hey, there's nothing I can do that will make them turn on me. He said himself that he could shoot someone in the middle of the street and he wouldn't lose one single voter. And he has lost a lot of voters. There have been a lot of people coming around, and there's a lot of people that are starting to see through this, but he still has those diehards hanging on. And instead of trying to play to reasonable people, he's playing to that. And that should tell you everything you need to know about him as a candidate. The fact that he would play to that part of his base. He's not trying to reach to moderates and independents. He's not trying to reach to reasonable people. He's going straight for that. He's egging that on. And those are people that not only does he not have the best interest of the country at heart, they can't have the best interest of the country at heart either. They really can't, because if they would engage in that type of behavior, it tells me that they're just into Jerry Springer, WWE style of rhetoric. And I've compared Trump to the WWE from the very beginning because of the way that he works and manipulates his audiences. So I've made a whole lot of pro wrestling analogies when it comes to Donald Trump. But back in the 90s, there was a wrestling promotion known as ECW, Extreme Championship Wrestling. And they came out and they took everything up a notch. They took it up even higher. So instead of guys just having a typical pro wrestling match, they started using furniture. They started going through tables off of a 10-foot ladder. Well, next thing you know, you got to go through 2 tables from a 15-foot ladder. And the next thing you know, you got to dive off the balcony through a burning table. And then the next thing you know, you got to dive off the top of the building through a burning table covered in barbed wire. And you see where this analogy is going. Every time they did a stunt, they had to up the ante to top the next stunt. I mean, you can't go back to the old way that things used to work. There was a guy named Jim Cornette. He's one of my all-time favorites. His gimmick back in the 80s was to take a tennis racket and hit it over someone's head. Well, once people dove off the balcony through 3 burning tables, his tennis racket didn't really look that impressive. And that's what we're seeing in American politics today. We're seeing Donald Trump appeal to this garbage style of politics, this Jerry Springer style of politics. He's appealing to that, and they have to one-up themselves every time. So if we say, hey, he's passing gas in court, he's wearing diapers, they're not going to pause and reflect on any of that. They're just going to make flags about it. They're going to go to events. We could literally say anything. I really believe that something could happen to Donald Trump, and they would literally just build a statue of him, and they would. I wouldn't be shocked, folks. At this point, I would not be shocked if they just hauled a statue around of him and bowed to it. And we could sit here all day long, and we could laugh at it. We could poke fun at it. We could make jokes about it. We could roast it. And in a lot of ways, it deserves to be roasted. It truly does. But we also, as reasonable people, we just need to stop and reflect on the fact that this is where we're at in American politics. That this is where we're at. That this party got hijacked by this garbage ideology. That's really what it is. It's a garbage ideology. And it appeals to the lowest common denominator. And now they've hijacked the party. Can you imagine going forward? This is where we're at. And it's just May. We got to make it to November. Can you imagine what it's going to be like going forward? What's next? And what's going to happen when he loses? They've already been preconditioned this entire time to think the 2020 election was stolen. They've been eating that steady diet of bullshit for the last 4 years. So when he is truly defeated, then is he just going to come out swinging because he's got nothing left to lose? Are they going to come out swinging because they got nothing left to lose? Yeah, I will sit back and I will watch the late night comedians, and I'm going to laugh because you have to laugh a little bit or you're going to go insane. But to truly reflect on all this and say to ourselves, this is where we got in American politics. I mean, there's no way that Donald Trump or his supporters have any of our best interests at heart. They're in this for a totally different reason. We're over here talking about human rights, women's rights. We're trying to move the country forward. We're trying to save democracy. And they're over here in this alternate reality. But they're trying to force that onto the rest of us. So we got to vote come November. And I know a lot of people will say to me, you know, Brando, I really admire you sitting there and talking and making your videos. I wished I could do it, but I can't because of my job. I would end up getting fired. I totally understand that. I understand that sitting down in a chair like this and talking about it ain't for everybody. But you can talk to one other person. You can pull up a chair and talk with one other person and get in that person's ear and let them know what's at stake. Because if all they're doing is following the mainstream media, they're getting a completely different narrative. And we're over here trying to show you the serious nature of this. That's what we're up against come November. And to me, it's not about Republican versus Democrat. It's not about left versus right. That type of insanity is what we're up against in November. And you have to ask yourself, does that guy and that crowd truly have America's best interest at heart?